winding.
Just said I didn't do it.
It's not there now, is it?
Was that more afternoon?
It says here, did you carry on studying? Or would you have liked to, or were you glad to leave school, You're glad to leave? Yeah, that depends on
When you actually came out, where did you do the realistic there? Just say then I was adopted. Until I was adopted. I'll just put that down. Right. 60 years old.
Are you struggling?
We're doing all right,
Did you finish school?
I was born 1948 and I was 40. And I'm always an Yorkshire. Just let me get a chair and sit down. Sorry, David.
Okay, it's okay.
Yes, of Irish, really. Yes.
Isn't it?
Well, yes and no, but you don't know any other, do you really? Yes, I must admit, now I'm older, I think I'm older, But you just fight when they're little, you just fight.
You don't fight, I've got a brother and a sister, you fight. You don't.
No.
Oh, no.
When you're younger.
I don't know, let go out.
No, I don't know.
When they get married, if you can lose
Yeah.
and they've got family. Yeah, many times I wanted to go.
Does Papa you live again? Does Papa you live?
Yeah, you've already put it there, it's on again. Stupid. One sister.
One sister.
I think we came from Huddersfield there once to go back. Yes, I can't remember that.
She's on my table. See if they have no
Four sisters? Oh, your mum was busy, wasn't she?
Can I borrow that? Can I borrow that pen?
Should have had about 8 altogether.
It's still
Because
Have you finished with your pen? You finished with your pen?
rubbish at writing. I just saw
the young girls and young men used to walk down Huddersfield Road. I think they went as far as Smithy Place, then turned round and came back. But if it was wet, they all got under the tunnel at Thong's Bridge, where I had to go through. And I'd been to church, you see, and I had a job to get through because they were all packed in this tunnel out of the rain. But they were quite civilised, there weren't any trouble, They were sat, they stood there waiting of the weather changing so they could go on the way. There was men at one side of the road and ladies at the other, and that's why I never went down the bunny run, but
I bet you did.
I didn't.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure I didn't go down the bunny run, but there was a lot of people I knew who did.
Did anybody go on the bunny run? Well, tell us about your bunny run.
I said no, and he couldn't. She went the yellow and he couldn't get behind me.
Nobody else?
Perhaps they don't know where the tunnel was.
I don't know.
Well, you know where you go up the road to Hag?
To where?
To Hag.
Yes.
And it's at the bottom there. There's a tunnel, and I lived in the houses up at the top of there. There was eight houses up there.
She used to drop them off, and then she said to them, "Oh, there's some money here for Jesus. Think on." So they went in, and she went home and came back to pick them up. Anyway, when they came out, they were chewing. You know, when she saw them outside, they were chewing. She said, "I thought I told you that money was for Jesus." And they said, "Well, Mum, Jesus weren't there."
Good one, isn't it? It is, yeah. But that's the sort of thing that happens. What else did we do? Oh, somebody's got dancing class here.
Yes.
Anybody got? I once went to a dancing class, yeah. You were on the theatre? What, Theatre Royal?
Yeah, when you were going
Right. I went to a dancing class, and it was Nora Bray that had the wood up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And something else here that was a big thing in my life was the cinema. I used to go. I used to go there twice a week.
Did you?
Yeah?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
All right.
Twice a week, and then sometimes I go on a Saturday. Yeah, they changed it on a Thursday, didn't they? And sometimes I go on a Saturday into town and go to the cinema as well. Now I think a lot of you will remember the dancers in the evening during the war.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell us about it.
You used to have them at Town Hall.
It was
In Bath.
Most of them up
The Masonic.
the park.
You used to have them in Heyday.
There used to be about 5 dance halls.
And it was live music.
And the singer.
So, anybody got any stories about that? No? About coming home from the dance and getting followed or anything?
You know, able to take exams, and I can't remember who went down with me, but that day we were taking an exam, and when we got there were all leaves all across, and to dive in deep end for a rubber break, plus the frogs that were in. But you were all right once you got that in and out straight away. Managed to get brick out. Yeah.
So you got your certificate?
Yes.
I remember we used to go when I was at Honley, I think it was the second year when I was there, and we used to go first thing on a Monday morning, and we started in May. Oh, you can imagine it, can't you?
Yeah.
And a penny for a cup of oxo
Oh yes, yeah, cup of oxo, that was
to
we.
warm you up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oxo.
Yes, and Barbara. Barbara.
Yeah.
And then there was Ash Grove, if anybody remembers that.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody remembers? Come on. I'm talking too much.
No, go. Carry on, Shirley.
When did you finish school? How many people were 14 when they finished? Yeah? 15? 16? Longer than that.
Morning, Anne.
Yeah?
I left school at Friday and started working on the Monday.
That's right, people did, didn't they? Left school on one day and the next day, well, it's usually Friday, and into work on Monday, weren't they?
I left school at Christmas and I was at work.
That's exactly as Audrey said. Young boys and young girls used to walk up and down and attracted to each other and little nudging here and whatever. When she was, actually when I was young, it was sort of finishing off. It didn't sort of happen as much for me. But my mum says she was down there one evening and she was walking them down, French knickers, remember the French? And she says, she was walking down there and all of a sudden she felt this slither down her leg. Knickers were down her ankle, she said, and I just picked them up and I just ran. Just always made me
So, what sort of nicknames did you have? Did anybody have anything that was interesting as a nickname?
No.
I noticed that Bridget was called Biddy. Anybody else have a nickname?
Mine was Joyce.
Joycey Poising. Anybody else?
I was called Percy Pig. My dad was called Percy.
Nobody else had one? Did you have a nickname? Oh, I was called Simmy.
Called what?
Simmy. My friend was called Lockie because her name was Lockie. Anybody else got anything that they think we might be interested in? Linda, can you remember anything from this table that might
Well, two of the ladies, Joyce and I've forgotten the lady in white, but Mary, they were both making fabrics and textiles in the wall for the RAF, which made me think about my father and being in the RAF.
Yeah.
So you worked in the local mills?
Yeah.
Both of them. Two
Both of
different mills. Different mills.
Yeah,
though.
I'm
Different mills.
nearly winding, you know.
You were making uniforms?
No, winding.
Textiles.
Yeah, but they were
Oh, yes,
yeah.
Now, back
Alpaca?
yeah.
Anybody else anything? Anybody in the mills?
Mabel was.
Mabel was in the mills. You used to make motors for Brook Motors. Yeah. What did anybody else do that was interesting?
I was at the mill.
You were in a mill. What were you doing, Audrey?
I was a mender.
You were a mender. Oh, menders got well paid, didn't they? What did you do, Mabel?
Battery filler. When I left school, I was a battery filler.
A battery filler?
Putting bobbins in toys. Like a wheel.
Yeah. So,
I was Shirley. I was a numberer before I was
a mender, yeah.
and I worked with Smith Taylor. And Smith Taylor's son worked at Bamford. He went to Bamford.
Yeah.
And he was the boss in the mill, and they had this perch, you see, where the clock went over to find all the
Yeah.
faults.
Faults.
Yeah.